CNN anchors completely lose it over one of Trump's jaw-dropping claims. Trump's claim, of course, is probably true, and CNN is almost certainly just playing politics. Welcome to the Doug TenNapel channel. Watch this.
Something was happening in that cockpit of that Black Hawk helicopter, which may have distracted the crew, perhaps as part of the training mission. Perhaps they were having difficulty with the night vision goggles. Who knows?
We don't know. That's the main theme. We don't know. We're guessing. He's guessing. I'm guessing. My guess is it's air traffic controllers. These two vehicles never should have been anywhere near each other. He's guessing something went on in the cockpit of the Black Hawk. Totally fine. Here we go.
The cockpit voice recorder, which I'm pretty certain will be recovered and the data will come out of it, should shed a lot of light of what was happening, what distractions might have occurred. It is hard to see moving air traffic at night in a city with all those background lights. But that is still the responsibility of that crew to see and avoid traffic. And obviously that did not happen here.
No, it didn't. And there was just no time. I mean, as we said, the slides weren't deployed. There was no, at that point, you're low enough to the ground texting. I mean, there was nothing, just a silence, and clearly so sudden. President Trump has had blame for this in several quarters. He had referenced DEI initiatives. He also specifically referenced the FAA hiring people with severe disabilities. Let me just play for you exactly what he said, Miles.
The FAA is actively recruiting workers who suffer severe intellectual disabilities, psychiatric problems, and other mental and physical conditions under a diversity and inclusion hiring initiative spelled out on the agency's website. Can you imagine?
So, Miles, he then went on to specify that one of the disabilities he was referring to is missing extremities. This is something actually you know about. You can speak to personally. You're a licensed pilot. You lost an arm in an accident. So I want to give you a chance to respond to that.
Yeah, number one, Aaron, let's not forget what it must be like to have lost a loved one and hear this whole, literally with your loved one still underwater. Here it turned into this weird political thing. But as personally.
Hold on. Trump did not start the politicization of this thing. That was started years ago under Joe Biden doing DEI hires. So just to be clear on this, Trump is responding to someone else politicizing the merit of jobs. Now Trump he is using politics in this thing, and that might be inappropriate, but he did not start the politics of this whole thing.
As someone who was a pilot, lost my arm, and went through the process of getting recertified to fly, I can attest to you that I went through every hoop and got over every bar an able-bodied individual would in order to be recertified to fly. The FAA simply does not forsake safety in order to include disabilities in the system. I am part of the aviation community because I persevered through that, and it's an affront to me and all other disabled people to allow that statement to come into play. So
hold on, now I'm gonna correct this guy on that too. First of all, hats off to him, lost his arm, went through all the rigorous training, got recertified. The beloved Miss TenNapel was once a certified pilot, but this guy went through the training, passed all the tests. Allegedly, they didn't lower any of the standards to let him in with one arm. Trump would have no problem if standards were not lowered for people with mental disabilities, people with one arm, women, trans. That's not the issue. The problem is we know that there were good people who worked in air traffic control that were passed up for DEI hires. This guy's in conflict with what Trump says, and what Trump says is true. And because I saw the report, Roby Starbuck read it.
Was there a policy about hiring and advancing people in preferential ways who had, sort of the DEI characteristics? And she said they did not. I have the policy in front of me. This is the Biden administration policy that they put out from the FAA for hiring, and it says that they wanted to prioritize hiring people who had either a loss of hearing, vision, missing extremities, paralysis, epilepsy, severe intellectual disability, or severe psychological disability. So yeah, the Biden administration had their priorities in the wrong place, and I think that any fair-minded person is going to look at what they did and say, say, that may have caused problems, because you got to think about it this way.
Okay.
I heard the questions you asked her, and if you're thinking about why there may have been a lack of staff, well, if you were using resources to go out and try to go on this hunt for, quote, diverse hires, you're missing out on a much wider, larger group of people, and you should have spent those resources trying to find a number of great people.
Yeah.
The FAA was told to hire people with these mental psychological disabilities, missing limbs. I read the report. They had a mandate by Biden. There's no proof that they actually hired anyone with those problems. But when you have a mandate from the flight administration, it's not unreasonable for Trump to think they followed it.
It's unfortunate in the context of a terrible tragedy relative to the tragedy these families face. I guess it's not as big a deal, but it is a gut punch to those of us who are disabled and aviators.
It would be a bigger gut punch if one of those disabilities caused this crash, and that is on the table.
And incredible that you're able to speak to that personally. Well, Miles, I appreciate talking to you, and thank you.
Hold on, I'm getting back to this personal thing now too. One person's testimony tells us nothing about the cause of this crash, okay? Or the inappropriateness of Trump's thing. Trump made a general statement. She brings in one guy. Probably his disability didn't affect his aviation at all. And so that is not Exhibit A. That is one example of one person.
Just a little over a week into his second term in office, President Trump was confronted with this national tragedy. It's a moment when our presidents often unite the nation and console those who are suffering. Here's what we heard.
Yeah, like Biden when you go, and now the accident is accident. Yeah, very consoling. And I agree with her, by the way, that Trump should have been more consoling. But he's also the boss and the dad coming back and angry that this accident happened. If it was avoidable, then maybe anger is appropriate, as opposed to milking everyone's emotions and cashing in on a tragedy.
I put safety first. Obama, Biden, and the Democrats put policy first.
And that's true.
And they put politics at a level that nobody's ever seen, because this was the lowest level. They put a big push to put diversity into the FAA's program.
That's a fact. That is not controversial. That is a fact.
Mr. President, you have today blamed the diversity elements, but then told us that you weren't sure that the controllers made any mistake. We then said perhaps the helicopter pilots were the ones who made the mistake.
It's all under investigation.
I understand that. That's why I'm trying to figure out how you can come to the conclusion right now that diversity had something to do with this crash.
Because I have common sense, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of people don't.
After he made those remarks in the briefing room, President Trump was asked to clarify his comments, and he was asked if he was planning on visiting the site of the disaster.
Do you have a plan to go visit the site or meet with any of the
I have a
first
plan
responders?
to visit, not the site, because you tell me, what's the site? The water?
Or to meet with the first responders down there?
I don't have
The water, you want to go swimming? I didn't know he said that. He's supposed to visit the site, the water.
a plan to do that.
Do you want me to go swimming? He asks. Upon hearing about President Trump's comment.
But he makes a good point. What's he supposed to do? I agree that he should show more sympathy. I don't think he needs to go and insert himself and suck all of the attention out of the room by making a big parade at the site. I hope he's small, humble at the site if he does happen to go there. Otherwise, it's just grandstanding.
Yesterday, I want to share with you what our CNN aviation correspondent, Pete Montine, had to say about it. And here's why. Pete is a pilot himself. He is someone who loves flying despite knowing just how dangerous it can be. Both of his parents were pilots, and he actually lost his mother in a plane crash. Here's what he said on our air yesterday.
It is just so soon, way too soon, to make any sort of indictment or insinuation that air traffic control was to blame here, that hiring policies were to blame here, that the pilots of the Black Hawk were to blame here. This is something that investigators will have to go through, not only on the scene, and they are there now doing the Lord's work. This is only the precipice. And so for the families that are going through hell right now, and I know this because I've lost my late mother to a plane crash, this made it even more hellish. What was that? I just cannot, I'm sorry to get angry, but what is the point of making some sort of speculative, wide-ranging, rudderless claim about anything about hiring at the FAA?
That's another personal opinion. Fascinating. Personal opinion. That's one guy's opinion. Just because you're a pilot and you lost your mom does not mean that you have the authority to counter Trump's claim that it could have been caused by DEI out of common sense. It might be fully appropriate to do right now, given people want answers. The people in the water and the families of the people who lost people go, why? How did this happen? Does anyone have a theory? And Trump just weighed in, meaning if Trump's saying, if it was caused by DEI, that's going to get fixed. It's fully appropriate if it's caused by DEI to say that he's going to fix it. Okay. And this guy, he's weighing in using outrage, politics, and personal experience to weigh in, which is exactly all Trump did. Personal experience, outrage, they're coming from the same place. This guy is actually arguing against his own position by weighing in. He didn't stay silent and say, I just won't comment right now on this. No, he weighed in. Everyone is giving their opinion. Seems allowed.
Strategist, welcome to all of you. Brad Todd, I want to start with you on the president because this is something we have seen from Trump. The word blame kept coming to my mind as I watched that press conference yesterday, because much of why Trump has been so successful as a politician is because of the politics of blame. He blames people. He blames other people.
He blames legitimate targets. That's why he won. Biden blamed people. Kamala blamed people. And Trump blamed people. CNN blamed people. MSNBC blamed people. Fox blamed people. I blamed people. The question is, what did the voters think was the actual blame for what's wrong with America? Just to clarify, the act of blaming, everyone does right now. CNN, this lady is blaming Trump for something. This is Casey Hunt.
Blames. That's just what he does in situations like this. He levels blame. Pete, I think, said it incredibly well. What is your perspective on how the president handled the moment yesterday, and whether that was the right thing for our country?
Well, Donald Trump's good at a lot of things. One thing he's bad at is being a mourner. Yesterday was the day when the president needed to be a mourner and needed to lead the country in mourning, and he's really bad at that. I think before he went out, he should have gone and watched President Reagan's speech after the Challenger disaster, where Peggy Noonan had written for him a poem, which Reagan knew, about them slipping the surly bonds of earth. The poem's called High Flight. It was a moment for poetry yesterday. They're going to be...
No, wrong, Republican strategist. I do not want to hear Trump recite a poem. He could recite a poem. That might have been appropriate for Ronald Reagan. Trump doesn't mourn and cry publicly. He gets mad. That's his whole shtick, brand, personality. It goes to his core. There's men who come in and they're stoic, and when they see a disaster, it's go time. The military too. I don't want to see Pete Hegseth cry. I want to hear the action plan. That's why we have him. There are guys that are the empathy and empathist. You know, they show empathy. They reach out and cry. They hug, whatever. Bill Clinton, I feel your pain. Obama might be more of that thing. I don't think that's Trump's brand. All I've seen him do in mourning is go up to like a grave or something of a fallen soldier and just quietly like leave a wreath. I don't need to hear this big soaring, great days are ahead and all that from Trump. And so this guy trying to put everybody in a big box, I just don't do that.
Plenty of time to argue about the FAA's policies and DEI and other mistakes it's made. But yesterday was definitely not that time. He's just more comfortable in combat and confrontation.
That's right.
I think he takes situations where mourning is need and tries to shift it out of mourning into a battle that he's more comfortable with. It was the wrong key yesterday.
Kendra?
I mean, that's exactly it. I mean, the lack of compassion, the lack of empathy with him. He had a real
Wrong. The compassion they showed, the DEI hires that could have caused this accident, the compassion someone showed at someone's incompetence caused human lives to be lost. This lady wants him to emote. She goes, it's a time for emoting. I just want to hear from you guys in the comments below. Did you wish yesterday, and this is a totally valid thing for you guys to want, do you guys wish Trump publicly mourned yesterday, went on camera and publicly mourned, even with a small statement? Just go, I'm sorry for the people that died in this. This is terrible, and not go to problem solving. Because I don't hear America going to Trump for that and saying, we need this from you. CNN and all these people, this Republican strategist, maybe they need it from him. I'm hearing a lot of tears come out. I've done my own mourning in public. You know, I did a little eulogy for the 2 kid ice skaters that died in the crash. Maybe that's my job to do. Maybe that's our job to do. I don't see why Trump, why does he have to do it? Put Trump in a box.
opportunity to go out there and to talk about these families who have lost loved ones, and the ability to not have any sort of compassion, to not even say that he was going to go and meet with the families who have lost their loved ones.
Trump could still meet with the families, but the idea that he has to make this Trump's going to step into this and make it all about him. This is what people do. They're drama queens. They want you to see them cry. If I want to look deep and poetic in front of you, I'd go on camera and start crying and go, guys, this is just terrible. But that just becomes about me. We know those people, drama queens. And I want you to think I'm the most sensitive person in the room, the most moved by this thing. That's how I always felt about Obama. And that's how I felt about Clinton. I didn't feel that about Biden, but I definitely felt it about Obama and Clinton. They were always putting their heart out on parade. It was a big show, big drama. I don't need it, and America doesn't need it from Trump.
It is sort of incomprehensible that this is where we are and this is our president. And
is it incomprehensible though? I mean, didn't we know going into this that this was what this was going to be like if President Trump was back in the White House?
Yes, but also this happened, across the river from where he lives currently in the White House, and it's just it is unbelievable that you can be so tone deaf and not realize, okay, the first thing I should say is something about these lost souls.
How does she know what's rolling around in Trump's heart? That's kind of projection. She's a psychic now. She knows that he does not feel anything for these people. I don't know that. By the way, if anyone's doing political points right now, she is trying to take a shot at Trump using this tragedy. How dare he not mourn more? Let the man live in his own body is my position. What do you guys think? Do you need to hear Trump show a little more emotion and mourning in this whole thing? Or how about he just solve this dang problem and stop it from happening again? That would show a lot of care. I'm Doug in Exile.